I'm really like that toxic ex that writes you up at like 3 in the morning once a year, asking you up. I feel like that posting on YouTube. Hello, guys. How are you doing? How is everything? I have decided to make a video because recently I had a spike in of my interest in knowing how the people that I used to follow on YouTube were doing nowadays and wanted to compare like how they were in 2014, 15, 16 versus right now. And I just find it super curious and I want to see how people are in life, and some of them are doing really well and some not so well. And I started looking at my life because also my birthday is coming up in less than a week. And I thought it would be a nice sort of video to make because I don't think of myself as aspirational in the sense I'm not like a billionaire or super famous or whatever. But since my channel at some point was a channel dedicated to mental health and talking about my experience and so on, and I know that although the videos are really old, there are still people who are still here and who are watching. And I just wanted to share the progress that a person can make in 8 years. It's not some kind of world record, but I think that I am pretty happy and I have a life that I really love. And I feel really at peace right now in my life. And I have achieved many of the things that I didn't think were possible. And I just wanted to share like how my life is now and talk about my experiences if it's interesting to anyone. And if it's not, it's also fine because it will just kind of be left there as my own progress report on the past 8 years. Because I think I started YouTube in 2017, and I will divide this video in 6 different chapters. And the first one is my mental health. So when I started the YouTube channel that you're currently on, I was in therapy pretty intensively, and I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which was incorrect. But still, at the time, I thought that it was correct, and I didn't have that much access to channels that would talk about it. So I thought I was reading so many books on that and studying a lot about how to heal it and the experiences that people were having. And I just started a channel because that was something that was lacking at the time. And right now there are so many different channels talking about that. So maybe you don't understand, but in 2017 it was not like that. There were maybe like 2 or 3 channels that talked about it, and they didn't really represent my experience. Because, like, spoiler alert, I didn't really have borderline, but still. Anyway, so I was already doing better, so like I was coming at the other end of it. And I wanted to share like my experiences with people because I thought it would be helpful, and it ended up kind of being helpful, I think, at least according to what people shared with me throughout these years. Turns out I actually had a complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and as soon as my trauma was dealt with, I actually felt much better. And my therapist at the time told me that she has never seen anyone recover so quick, and I was like, yeah, praise me more. No. But yeah, so in the end, like in less than a year, she just kind of like signed me off from therapy, and she said, well, I cannot do really anything else for you. And that was it. But circumstantially, I was not at the best place of my life. And so I think I kind of entered a depressive episode. I'm not sure what you can say nowadays on YouTube. So, well, if I'm not monetizing this content anyway, so I don't care. Yeah. So I really struggled with depression for a while there, and I think there are still some videos where I tell my experience with antidepressant and so on, but I didn't stay on them for too long. I think I was maybe a year or two in total on antidepressants, and luckily, yeah, well, after that I have never gone back to that. And I also had pretty bad anxiety, like in the worst parts. It even ended like in panic attacks and so on. But it was just pretty bad. Like I always had interrupted sleep because of that, and well, that affects your quality of life in general. So that was 2017/18 when I was most active on here. And then coming to 2025, right now, I don't want to blow my own horn too much. I mean, I don't care. I can tell my experience, but I can also just quote like some people that know me closely and personally, and they describe me as a very calm, centered person who has it together and helps other people, and yeah, pretty much is aligned in their lane, like chill. From my personal experience, I remember my therapist at the time telling me that you will never not be anxious because that's just how you are. And I was like, this cannot be like, I don't like this. I don't like you telling me this. And I was like, I'm not gonna stop, I'm gonna continue like seeking ways of not being anxious and not feeling this way forever. And I am happy to say that I am not anymore. I mean, of course, I have like moments when I have anxiety because I'm a normal person. I have days when I feel nervous. I have days when I feel like down. I have days when I feel angry and so on, but I am very much able of emotionally regulating myself all the time, basically. I am very happy with my life. Honestly, it's not anything to brag about, but I really have so many things, and there are so many things happening for me right now that I never thought possible. And I just wish I could go back to 2017 version of me and just tell her that, yeah, we're gonna get there, And this video is partly for the 2017 version of me, as that version didn't have the YouTube channel to tell her the experiences and that it was normal, and that, well, I mean, there were other people experiencing that and she wasn't crazy like this. Maybe there is some version of like 2017 me in another body, like looking at this video and getting some hope. I want to touch quickly like on the geography of myself since then. So when I started my channel, I was living in Chicago in the United States. I was there because my boyfriend at the time was there. I was actually pausing my PhD at the time because of my mental health. I couldn't just continue because I was not in the place to like strain my brain and be under all that stress. Actually, my PhD was not stressful at all. So, but still, like I was not in the place to be doing hardcore research. So I went with him to the United States in hopes of like finding maybe a job there and staying there with him because he ended up staying, but that didn't happen, luckily. And I moved briefly to stay with my parents after that, and then I went back to Berlin where I finished my PhD and started. And after that, I moved to Italy for a while to pursue a postdoc, but that didn't go well. So then I came back to Berlin. And then I went to South America for a while, but that was more a fun journey. So I was like taking sort of a sabbatical with my current partner, and it was the best time of my life. And I want to repeat it as soon as possible. And then we came back to Berlin. So that's where I still am, but hopefully not for long. But I will not like say anything, not to jinx it. But yeah, I sort of feel that Berlin, although not the place where I was born, but I moved here when I was 21, and I kind of always fell back to Berlin, although I feel kind of like the cycle is coming to its end. But we'll see. Maybe I have some, karmic ties to this place and it will just keep coming back. I don't know. Now, briefly touch on relationships since I mentioned my ex-boyfriend, and yeah, so, well, I mean, I think very shortly after starting the channel, we actually separated and it was all fine. We still have a really nice relationship and I love him very much, and I'm super grateful because he was there like at the worst point of my life, and I always tell him that, and anyone who wants to listen about that. So I'm just looking at my notes here because I don't want to forget anything. Yeah, and then for a long while I was not in any relationship because I was like more focused on working on myself, and then I had some casual dating experiences. And then now, for already over 3 years, or about 3 years, I have been in a relationship that I sometimes have to pinch myself because it's just so good. And I know that it is a product of me working on myself and being able to connect with a person that is so wonderful as my current boyfriend is. And I just am really grateful for this wonderful being to be part of my life. And I tell him that every day. And I don't care that I'm cheesy because I really love him. And I know for a fact now that love doesn't live 3 years, as many people do believe. And yeah, so I actually, well, I mean, I will get to that later. But anyway, I'm really happy in my relationship, and I was very happy even without the relationship. So, like, when I met him, I was already really, really happy with my life. And I actually remember maybe it was right before meeting him or right after meeting him, but I like we were still not like romantically involved. That's for sure. I remember one morning being in my house and thinking, wow, I really feel like this is my life. Like I'm creating it and I'm like aligned with my inner self. And yeah, kind of just, I felt at peace with my life and that like I didn't have the urge to like change anything drastically, even like being by myself. I was just really happy with everything. And that is something that I wish upon absolutely everyone before they enter a relationship and after enduring. And just, yeah, that's a really nice feeling. Then, yeah, about my education, since I briefly mentioned that I was doing my PhD, I was on a break when I started YouTube, but then I didn't know if I was going to continue or not. But then I decided to continue, and I'm really happy that I did because I finished it and I got my degree in physics, well, physical chemistry, but it was basically physics. And then I kind of felt like there was a little bit of soul searching in between, but I felt like okay, I kind of fulfilled my family expectations of what my education should be and decided to pursue my dream of being a helping specialist, so like being in mental health. And I got a certification in coaching right after that, and I started working with people directly, and that was like me just living my best life because that's something that I always wanted to do, and it was just giving me life. I would do it for free forever, and I'm just absolutely the happiest like every time that I get to talk to people purposefully and try to help them better themselves and so on. So I was just like above and beyond happy about that. And then while working as a postdoc, because that's like the thing that I knew how to do best was science, and studying and working as a coach. And then I got trained in clinical psychology here, and then I found myself working with couples a lot because that was something that interested me, and I really worked hard on my relationship patterns. I just really liked doing that because I like analyzing relationships. I really like how the dynamic works, because it's one thing how the brain of one person works, but then how they intertwine and the dynamics that happen, I just find it much more interesting and like challenging to tackle. So I got an MBA and like a license in family psychology this year. Just so happy about that. And next I will study sexology because I think that, well, I mean, we had like part of it when I was studying the like family psychology, but I just want to like dive deeper into that because I think it's such an important part of life and relationships in general. But I also like working individually with people, especially like people who are pursuing like a search of a deeper meaning, like deeper understanding of themselves and so on. So now I'm practicing as a psychologist and as a coach, and I'm, yeah, always continuing to learn new things and so on. And I just feel so beyond happy. That was my dream since as long as I can remember. And I have been like reading and educating myself on psychology since I was like 13. I remember reading like Jung and Freud when I was, yeah, like 15. And I just cannot believe, like, I still cannot believe that this is my life. I'm just so beyond happy about that. I wanted to touch briefly, like, on the health aspect of it, just because I think it's such an important part of our lives. I never really had, like, any major, like, health problems that was not, like, mental health. But I also want to say that, like, right now, I find myself also, like, living my best life in that sense. I'm in the best shape of my life. I am super active. I worked a lot like on my nutrition this year because I have been vegan for more than 10 years now, and I know that there can be some nutritional deficiencies. And I also naturally lean towards like more carbs in sense of like fruits and legumes and grains. And I don't really like fats, like even avocado or like nuts. I don't really like them. They're like too heavy for me. But this year I have been leaning like into having a bigger input of that and of proteins and so on. So like my nutrition is now really balanced, and I'm super glad about it, and I really feel it in my body. Like, although I'm 8 years older, I will be 32 next week, or maybe when you see this video I'm already 32. And I feel better than I ever have, really. And the way that I train, the strong that I feel, that was not proper English, but you get it. And one of the most important things that I am super proud of this year is rest. So, as a person who is an A plus type person, I never allowed myself to rest. Like, I was all about that grind. You need to deserve to rest and so on. And it was such a long way for me. I started this journey like 5 years ago, maybe, of trying to, just like let myself lay on the couch for 15 minutes and so on. And this year I finally got to a point in my life where I have a non-negotiable, where one day of the week I am doing nothing productive. I am just resting. I'm spending time with my partner or by myself. I do things for myself to enjoy life, like reading, going to nature, doing things that bring me joy, and it's non-negotiable. And I have at least 1 hour every day where I dedicated to that as well. And I'm so like I'm more proud of it than of any of my degrees, honestly, because that was just really difficult for me. And especially with having like two jobs and studying all the time, it was no weekend, no rest for 3 years or more. And I just really feel how that influences my productivity and even how I feel as a professional and how I feel as just my value as a person. Like, you don't expect other people to value if you don't value yourself enough to give yourself the rest that you need, to give yourself the care that you need, and so on. And although I was not horrible at that, but I had problems allowing myself to rest. And right now, I don't anymore, and I'm really, really happy about that. So, why am I telling you this? Like, why did you have to? Why did you have to listen to me brag about how good I'm doing right now? I don't have a problem saying that I'm really proud of the way that I came and like everything that I have achieved, because none of it was like handed to me. I am super grateful because I have had people supporting me throughout all of this, but no one can do anything for you unless you decide for yourself that you deserve it and that you should go for it. And I just really am grateful that I had this mindset somehow ingrained in me, maybe, or I don't know if I was like born with it or whatever, but I always like I never took no for an answer. Like when my therapist would tell me, "Oh, you will always be anxious." I'm like, "You just don't know how to make me not anxious, so I will just go and find someone who does." And eventually I did. By the way, I wanted to come to the step where I explain to you why I think I was able to do all these things and why I was able to like heal more rapidly than I would otherwise, if that makes sense. So, first of all, at some point when my first psychotherapist released me and she said, I cannot do anything for you, I felt like, okay, wow. So, if I feel better, but still not good enough, like I didn't want to live the rest of my life feeling the way that I was feeling at that point. And she was telling me, you're totally fine. You have no diagnosis. Like, you just go, live your life. And I was like, no, I refuse to do that. And I just started looking, and I was looking for over a year. And you know what they say, like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And at some point, I stumbled upon the person who like absolutely changed my life, who became like my therapist, my mentor, my teacher. And I still, what was that? I still work with her on a weekly basis or sometimes even more often, because when you work with other people, you have to maintain yourself like as grounded and connected to yourself as possible. And I just really felt at that time, I was 26, I think. I just needed like some mother figure in my life. Like I needed female guidance. So for me, it was very important that it would be like a female that's older than me. And she's not that much older, but that was like the message that I sent to the universe at the time. I was like, I need a female figure that would be like a role model to me, because I don't understand this life. I need someone to explain to me how to live it, because this doesn't make any sense. And I found her, and I'm so happy that I did, because I just find it so important when you just do therapy. It's a lot of the times, I mean, now it's changing, but a lot of the times it's just like symptoms oriented. And so when you don't have like any symptoms that can be categorized as something, people just cannot do anything for you. I mean, like you can go to a person and they will like listen to you bitch about your life, but basically there is not much that they can do. And I found how important it is to have like a very solid understanding of kind of a philosophy of life that makes sense to you. And I'm not going to preach about mine because I think it's so different for everyone. But I found one specialist that kind of her moral compass, her view of life, her guiding system that she followed made a lot of sense to me. And she also, like, also her first education was also in physics, and then she became a psychologist, and that was super helpful because she could use like metaphors that I would understand. And I just found it so vital to find a person that can become your mentor. And I have clients for whom I feel I have become this figure who are with me for a long time. And sometimes, like, they can drift a little bit apart and then come back when they need it more. And I feel that this sort of a relationship that forms is, well, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's necessary for everyone, but at least it was necessary for me at the time. There is a risk of becoming dependent, but a good specialist would show you that if you cannot make any decisions without them and so on, that you're becoming dependent, and that's another extreme, and I don't think that it's healthy. But yeah, so if I could kind of summarize why I think I was able to get to where I'm at with my mental health and my concept of self and all of that, is because I always prioritized it. Because for me, like, my mental health became like my number one priority since my first time in this like serious therapy and working with trauma. And it was just non-negotiable. It was always like first, because I understood that if you don't have your mental health, like, you don't have anything. Also because I was always like open and curious, and I never even, like, being a scientist, I would not reject anything. Like, I would not reject astrology or alternative medicine and whatever. Like, I would just try anything. Well, not, drugs, but I would try like methods that would spark my curiosity, even if they wouldn't make sense to me. Because sometimes I would think, like, even if it's a placebo, if it works, like, who am I to question that? But of course, being cautious with what I said before, like, not substances, not something like completely insane, not joining a cult, but like being open and curious about things and like trying things and see if they work for you. And if they don't work for you, it's fine, and if they work for you, it's great. And yeah, being consistent. I don't like the word discipline because I think it's very kind of effort ridden and not kind to yourself most of the time, especially the way that discipline is like portrayed in our lives right now. But being consistent with your effort, being kind to yourself, forgiving yourself for like slip ups or setbacks, because they are always going to be there. But it doesn't mean that the progress that you've made before didn't matter. And yeah, I would say that I was very consistent with my like spiritual practice, so to say. So like meditation and yoga, I have been doing that for like 11 years, and that was a pillar of my mental health for a long time. Because I will make a video, probably. I want to come back. I want to start making more videos. I will probably make a video about like why you should choose a therapist that meditates, because just the ability to be present with the situation as it is and accepting yourself as you are right now is the best thing that you can do to become better. Because while you're fighting where you are right now, you're not advancing. And meditation gives you that. It gives you the possibility to just sit there with your thoughts as they are, with your feelings as they are, and just accept them and observe them and not judge them. And then it starts bleeding into your life. Eventually, it starts kind of penetrating the situations of your everyday life, and the stimulus and reaction become more and more separated. I would say that that was also a big pillar of my mental health. And I think that it's arbitrary for people who work with other people to meditate and practice like radical acceptance of everything, because you will have to fight the urge of like changing people otherwise all the time, and that's not the way to go. You have to be focusing on other stuff. Okay, I have been talking for 30 minutes. I think that's enough. I will try to edit what I just said. I hope I will upload it eventually. I really want to come back. I really want to start making more videos. I really miss YouTube. I really miss the connection that I felt here with the people. It's not the same on the shorts. It's not the same on Instagram, on TikTok. I'm on all these platforms. You can follow them down below. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I want to be back. Let's hope. it happens. Okay, love you. Bye.